Hello everyone, this is Matthew Frailey with Breakpoint Trades. As you know, precious metals, gold, silver especially, have had major moves, and of course, the precious metal stocks, commodities, etc. This is one of my slides on my video from back in February 3rd, where I warned that silver is going to make a substantial move, that it was in a 4-year coil pattern. And of course, since that time, it's had a major breakout. So I wanted to give you guys an update on that. Here is a quick update on just those couple charts. Here's silver from today's update, May 19th. By the way, my mom's birthday. Again, here's that monthly silver chart. Nice breakout there. Huge move out of the coil. These are your next supply zones above. And the major move of the coil is up there in the 40s. I think silver will eventually tackle 50 again, which I'll get to later. Here's silver on the weekly at a perfect textbook 5-wave ABCD coil. Again, this is absolute textbook. The proper way to draw a bullish ascending triangle with wave E at the higher low. You had a breakout, and if you missed that breakout, you had a absolute textbook pullback to retest previous resistance, which became support. That's one of the lowest risk trades, but an absolute textbook in a nice rebound sense. Gold obviously has had a big move. It had a big ascending type triangle here, which it broke out of early in the year. And, it pulled back for a couple weeks there, bounced off its 9-week EMA and is rallying again. Of course, the stocks have done well, the precious metal stocks. GDX, one of the ETFs for the miners. We mentioned back here on March 1st when it had a confirmed buy signal on this trend line break of this channel. We also had various systems trigger, and it's had a substantial move since. Had a recent consolidation pattern, some sort of fourth wave likely, and it broke out again from that last week. Here's a couple of the individual names we've had. RGLD, again, nice moves from March. It's already up over 30% since. Broke out of a recent pattern, and of course, silver stocks have really shined. EXK, we had it as a long idea back in late February, broke out there on March 1st, around the $1.60 range. It is now up around $3.90, so basically doubled. Congrats to any of those who may have played these. And again, guys, it's not just precious metals that have moved. Almost all of these commodities. Here's copper. Look at this parabolic breakout move just since the February-March timeframe. These moves in commodities are not helping Powell's case on inflation, on his inflation fight, as you know, and of course, the case for rate cuts. All right. So we'll be discussing other commodities in a separate video newsletter. In this video, again, it's going to be mainly a big precious metals update on silver, gold, mining stocks that I gave you a heads up on late February and March of this year. We'll be discussing gold and silver. We'll be discussing some of the index ETF or the stock ETFs, the mining stock ETFs, GDX, GDXJ, SILJ, and individual gold and silver stocks. We're going to do a big focus on some of the weekly time frames because, as I stated to you guys, I considered this area major swing trade hold potential. And so instead of just always looking at daily, we're going to look at some of the weekly charts just to show you what things look like there. Again, my name is Matthew Frailey. I founded Breakpoint Trades 21 years ago to provide the most advanced technical analysis you're going to find on the internet with our weekly newsletters, our advanced mechanical trading systems, such as our SPY and ES mean reversion systems with 90% winning trades, our amazing KISS systems, which I've been discussing a lot, showing examples of. Again, a lot of great stuff here. If you haven't done so, check out our subscription. It's very reasonable. Again, we've been here for 21 years now. Okay, let's get back to the video newsletter at hand here. Let's get to the charts. Or before we get to the charts, here's a index sector table, basically what transpired last week. As you know, the major indexes, the Dow and S&P, NASDAQ, all made new highs last week. Nice rallies there. Again, we're in an election year, so not surprisingly, generally in an election year, usually you push up in the early summer. US dollar had a big sell-off last week, down about 0.6%. That helped commodities and precious metals especially. Bitcoin broke out, as you know, over a week ago, and it's had a nice move. Last week it was up 9%. Bitcoin Cash 10%. Ethereum up 6.6%. As far as the commodities, Mostly to the upside here, big move in natural gas. Um, Crude oil up 1.8%. The index, DBC, commodity index, that's up 1.85%. Uranium up 5.8%. Copper up 8.3%. The only weakness you see here is in the ags, agriculture, corn, wheat. But remember, that area had kind of a blow off move, so it's having a little correction. All right. Precious metals, big move. Gold up 1.8%. Silver up 9.7%. That's a big move. Platinum, palladium moving. And GDX, that's the miners ETF, up 4.6%. Now moving to the charts. So here's a daily chart of silver. Again, silver alone on Friday rallied 4.6%. Again, you can see this ascending triangle we had drawn, just absolute textbook. You broke out of that in April, rallied up. Then if you missed that initial break, you had a perfect three-wave ABC pullback. Remember, three-wave ABC pullbacks and an uptrend are your friend. Those are buying opportunities. And you got a perfect back test of previous resistance became support. Textbook, that was a great area to add to your silver position or buy if you missed that initial breakout. Nice move last week. Again, we are getting a little overbought here, but there is a little supply zone further above. Maybe we'll tag that. There is a potential little MACD divergence at the moment. Hasn't been negated there. Chart 8, here's silver on the weekly, up 9.7% for the week. Again, we already discussed this ascending triangle. Textbook, broke out, back tested it, boom. Taking out those highs going back several years. Very bullish looking. We do have a little RSI 5 divergence in the short term to be aware of. Chart 9, here's SLV. That's the silver ETF. Now, this is the one-time ETF, and this was actually up more than the silver metal. It's up 11.7% last week. Awesome move. And this one had a kind of a better coil, kind of a symmetrical triangle coil pattern. And by the way, this little consolidation now is considered a demand zone. So this is now a support on a pullback, but that's pretty far away now with last week's move. Chart 10, here's the monthly chart of silver. Again, remember I talked about this back in February, early March, and this talked about this 4-year coil pattern, which it broke out in a big way. Silver for the month of May is up 17.3%. By the way, so the all-time highs is essentially around the $50 range, which was tested twice since 1980, which I'll discuss further below. But otherwise, this areas in here, these boxed areas, these are supply zones, area of potential resistance. You can see we're tagging the underside of that supply zone. If we fall through a little bit more, maybe we go up into it a little more, you can see it extends up to about 35.50. Then I think maybe we consolidate there. Then there's another consolidation zone way up here in the 40s. Then, of course, you have the all-time highs. But again, this was the absolute textbook triangle pattern. Energy was building, and we broke out of it nicely. Chart 11, here's the monthly SLV chart. Again, that's been up a little bit more than silver, even though this is a one-time ETF, up 19.7%. Here's your clean supply zones above. So this one hasn't hit its real supply zone yet. It's kind of up here in the 31 to 34 range. I would love it to get into there before we see some sort of consolidation. But again, long term, I think it's going way up into here. But those of you who want to take some profits and you like to scale out of things and they get a little overbought, that tends to be me. So just pointing that area out. Here's the bigger picture charts, guys. So here's silver. This is a quarterly chart, by the way, going back to 1971. So again, first off, silver back in January 1st, 1980, I guess. It's spiked to basically almost $50, hit 49. By the way, if you don't know your history, that was when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market and they pushed it to near $50. Basically, they were trying to be like the Duke brothers from Trading Places when they were trying to corner the orange juice market, if you remember that great movie. But anyway, rallied up there, just was unsustainable, came all the way down. Then it spent all those years basing. It spent, 12, 15 years basing, forming a big base, and that allowed it to enter another big rally. It rallied up to 50 again, another blow-off move where it topped out, had another big pullback consolidation. As we know, it had a recent coil, which it's breaking out of. Again, this is your first big supply zone. I do think over time, this area will be tested up here, guys, just given all the backdrop of what everything's going on. Every week there's billions, there's 20 billion spent here, 30 billion spent there, this given to Ukraine, this given to Israel, this just, this given to illegal immigrants, you name it, just spend, spend, spend. And that's why this stuff is moving, guys. Let's be honest. Chart number 13, here is a monthly linear chart. Again, shows you the same thing, just showing you the monthly chart. A couple things here. Again, we are getting a little stretched. Doesn't mean we can't push a little bit further into the supply zone. You can see the CCI indicator. I like to use this as for divergences, and when it spikes way above negative 200 or above 300. So you can see here it is nearing this 300 area. Doesn't mean it stops here immediately, but that is getting a little extreme. So sometime soon we'll probably need to see a rest on this. Next, here's the quarterly chart of silver. Now here I made this a logarithmic chart. Remember I showed you the linear charts above. So I did this because you can see you can now draw, this accounts for the, makes it a log scale. But you can now draw sort of an uptrend line here from the 2002 lows. And here I'm skipping this little spike low because I'm connecting more of the bodies here. But you can see almost, could this be some sort of 45-year ascending triangle forming where silver eventually, does something like this? That would be crazy. But you know what? Again, just like I stated, given all the government spending, currency debasement, would not surprise me. Next, here is the monthly chart of that same thing. You can see again the same pattern. We're getting to the supply zone. You can see your CCI is getting up here, so just be aware of that. Next, enough of silver. Here's gold. Again, gold's had a massive move. This is that monthly chart, this cup and handle that I was discussing, back in 2021 and 22. Well, it appears to be playing out. We're in wave 1, 2. We're in the midst of this wave 3. Eventually we'll have a wave 4 pullback, but ultimately it's going to go up again. And I wouldn't be surprised if gold tackles 3,000 sometime in the future. Chart number 17, here's gold on the weekly. 1.8% last week. Again, it had an awesome break from that big consolidation pattern that it finally took out early this year. Also, the stocks are outperforming it from the GDX-GLD ratio, which is good. Here's another weekly chart as well, just zoomed out a little bit. Here's the daily chart of gold. Basically, I was talking about this possibly even a wave 3 high back in early April, and we essentially had a 3-wave pullback as a wave 4. And we're trying to go up now in a wave 5. Now this will be a wave 5, maybe a wave 5 of 3. So once that ends, I think we'll have a deeper pullback in gold. If you look here, the MACD is really lagging. You see it just crossed up. So you could see how gold could go up further, make another high. Maybe it goes to 2,500, 2,600, but you can have a really big MACD divergence there that I think will lead to the next pullback. Gold seasonality tends to be weak coming up later in the month of May and into June. So we'll see if that ends up playing out. Here's GDX. That's the gold miners ETF, kind of a way to play the mining stocks. We mentioned this buy signal on March 1st on that channel break. We also had confirmed buy signals on the GDX-GLD ratio trendline break and the RSI trendline break, and it's had a nice move up. Recent consolidation here from April, but it broke to the upside. We are forming a MACD divergence on this next push, so be aware of that, but it continues to be very strong. Here's the weekly chart of GDX. Again, nice move. Now, one thing, it is testing this weekly downtrend line from 2020, connecting to 2022 highs. So we're right here. If we can get through that, then you got a supply zone up here to about the 40 area. Some other ETFs for the mining stocks, GDXJ. You can see how it broke that long-term trend line back from 2020. There's a supply zone up here in the low 50s. It could be a target. And silver stocks, which have really done well. SILJ, that's one of the silver junior ETFs. Again, it held that big long-term support I was showing, broke its trend line back there in March, and it's been marching higher. taking on a little resistance back here from early 2023. The next real supply zone is way up here, guys. That's definitely going to be a target over time. Now let's look at some individual names. EXK, that's a silver stock. As I said, a lot of these have really rallied. So we had this as a long idea back here in February, broke that long trend line on March. Again, it's a silver stock. It's essentially doubled. So some of these have had massive moves. Here's RGLD, another one we had back there. Nice, move up and a nice move last week. Some others, KGC, another one, really good move, and recently I had a little ascending triangle pattern, which it broke out from. It is quite overbought here. No MACD divergence. RSIs are sky high, so be aware of that. Not an area to chase now. Hopefully you guys bought it in that consolidation pattern. Chart 27, IAG, IA Gold, was one we recently had on our list as a coil pattern, and it busted out in a nice way. So if you've been watching our stuff, you could have saw this long idea a couple weeks ago, and it's done very well. Now I want to focus on some of these bigger weekly charts, guys, because I think this area could be a major bull market for a while. We want to look at the weekly charts on these individual precious metal stocks and see where they could potentially go over time. So here's AG, silver stock. Remember, I had this as a long idea back at early spring. You got a weekly falling wedge, A, B, C, D, E, 5 ways, MACD divergence, just textbook. We broke out of that wedge. Initial rally up, higher low, rallying again. Here's your next targets. That's your first supply zone, first good target. You do have an open gap here in 2022 there. That would be a little magnet, but then you have another supply zone up here. But again, long term looks great. Here is PAS, Pan American Silver, another big silver stock. Again, beautiful breakout and moving up nicely. Again, there is a little, I didn't mark it, there's a little supply zone right around here in this 23, 22 area. Otherwise, your bigger one over time is up here. Again, I think those will be achievable over time. Here's CDE or EXK, that's that silver stock I showed above. That's your little supply zone right here, but otherwise your next major supply zone's up in here in the 4s. Chart 31, CDE, the major silver stock. Again, it basically held that, had a double bottom support, held that 2020 lows. I talked about that, broke out in March, big move up. And the next supply zone is way up here. I think it'll be achieved over time. Chart 32, FSM, another silver stock that had a big breakout. Your next major supply zone is way up here. Here's Hecla Mining, another major silver stock. Again, held that long-term support back there. This week, breaking out of a weekly downtrend line now. Chart 34, SVM, another silver stock, Silvercorp Metals. Again, held that long-term support there. Nice move up. You got a resistance here coming up. It's a smaller, lower price name if you want to look for, a lower priced stock. Wheaton Precious Metals, another one that broke out of this pattern. I talked about this a month ago. Nice breakout from there. Chart 36, ASM, silver and gold mines. This is a weekly chart. The low priced one, if you want a low price, starting to break this little long-term trend line. One to watch if you want a cheapie, if you think it can, some of these miners, the juniors can start to play some catch up. Here's a silver stock. Again, it's obviously had some sort of earnings or some problem here. It's been in a downtrend, but if you want one that hasn't moved yet, again, this is just a daily chart, SSRM, little silver stock. You got a clean resistance right here at 570. So maybe that can provide you a short-term move up. All right, guys, again, congrats if you've caught some of these moves in the precious metals. It's been very fun. And I think they're going to go much, much higher over time, though we may be nearing a point of some consolidation soon. Okay. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And we'll have another newsletter on the general market, commodities, etc. Take care.